but thanks for listening. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to We Say Things, episode 96, powered by Elgato. Thank you, Elgato, one of my favorite companies of all time, and I'm not just saying that, Cinderin. They have sent us these beautiful microphones, the Wave 3 microphone, and I'm not going to lie, they're USB, and I was hesitant because I have this whole professional setup from before, but they're like, just give it a try, and if you don't like it, you don't have to use it. It's literally better than my professional setup. I genuinely don't even understand. So thank you to. They also sent me a Stream Deck and used some stuff, and they are awesome. So thank you very much. Yes. There's a link in the description of the video, and there's also a link underneath the stream. If you guys click it, it helps us. Thank you. You can look at their products, which they have a lot of cool stuff. So definitely check it out, Cinderin. Check it out.
Yeah, I'm honestly really impressed with this mic. And on top of that, this is this is kind of a separate thing or a bit, maybe an unexpected thing to give praise for. But Maruna was unpacking this and setting it up for me because she absolutely loves setting up stuff like this. She loves setting up tech, and I'm like, cool. Then I don't have to do it.
Are you sure it's not because you're incredibly lazy?
No, that is not the reason, actually, for once. Okay. I mean, that is also true, but that is not the reason, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And she was like, make sure to shout them out for their packaging, of all things. She was like, give them a shout out for their packaging, because everything is cardboard except like one little plastic bag or whatever. So it's super recyclable, which she thought was a great statement to make in this day and age. So I wanted to mention that, not because she said it, but because it's also something I think is really good. So
yes, thank you for sending us
good job on the packaging, Elgato.
Cardboard. That's we appreciate it. Thank you again. Okay, so let's get started with our patron shout-outs as per norm, Cinderman. I believe that you've been taking the second half lately, so I will allow you to begin this episode.
I shall start. Oh, it looks like we have some new names. Oh, this is going to be great. Yeah, the top half always has the good ones. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Terra Arcanum Dragon Knight. No, not that one. Available now on Amazon.com, rated 4.5 out of 5 stars. Damn, this is a great way to get ads into our podcast. Telcontar Prime. This episode is sponsored by Gabe Newell's OnlyFans page. Dude, if only. Outside of a dog, a book is a man's best friend. Inside of a dog is my favorite hat. New game, pretend Sinnerin is an actor and you are talking about his films, but always incorrectly. For example, Sinnerin blew a sling blade.
That sounds...
Dude, that's a game for you. I can't make references.
You don't even know what that means, but that does sound pretty funny.
Shakar, Boyko Ustavka Mutro. The Megapope, how do you watch In Bruges on audio only? TI in New Zealand. Zan Xavier, Sunsfan Pudge Omegalol. Nate Thicko 01 Hamscroats. Bacon, no, not that bacon, the other bacon. And pretending to be an Uber Eats driver while I show up on Matumba Man's front door while gorilla death gripping my schmeat. Okay, next, you're Shannon. You're up.
Thank you also to Lick, Shark TM, the Ben Jackson and Ben Broomhead Alliance, Novi Panda, Dop, Eating Chosnek Makes You Happy and Healthy, Mr. Underscore Man, Spreading COVID-19 at an alarming rate by attending the weekly Ben Alliance meetings, Pitch Black, Wooden Aftertaste, Done Talk, Dyslexic Lawyer, Anonymous. Peter, did you know that because horses' eyes are on the side of their head, they're capable of seeing nearly 360 degrees at once?
I knew that, actually.
I did not. Thank you for that hopefully true fact.
Did I know that?
And also thank you to Ronnie Keel, as always. Appreciate you guys.
Did I know that? Is that even true? Or is he trolling us?
Yes, go look it up now. Very important to get this out of the way so that we can actually start the podcast. Okay, so first things first, I talked about
horses
this last
have a range of vision of about 350 degrees. Okay.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's pretty sick.
That's really impressive. So the artifact thing from last week, I sent a private, unlisted video to Gabe Newell himself about 5 days ago.
Yep.
No response, but it does have 20 views. So it might have been passed around the office either to laugh at me or to potentially do the unthinkable and restart development. Very unlikely, but No response yet. I've gotten a lot of messages about it, so just wanted to give you guys a heads up. But something I am working on, I'd like to announce this right now. This is the big announcement of the week. Of course, now that Artifact is kind of dead in the water, and we aren't getting that Artifact $1 million tournament, but luckily you guys have me, so you'll get the next best thing. So, announcing the Artifact Foundry International this Sunday, March 21st at 9 a.m. PST, which is 17 CET for all you Euros out there. It's going to be 8 of the top players in the entire game right now. I know there's going to be a bunch of jokes, but there's only 8 players. But trust me, these guys are good. Single elim best of 3. It's going to be draft format, not constructed. And all of the winner, or sorry, it's an all for one type of thing where the winner itself takes everything. And it's a prize of 4.2 million Iranian rials, which equates to about $100. So there's some money involved. You can of course find the coverage here on this channel, the Twitch channel, that is twitch.tv/SunsFanTV. And if the tournament is even somewhat popular, we'll have an open version for more people to join, not just invite only. The reason we're not doing it that way is because I think showcasing it at the highest level while still kind of keeping it newbie friendly is going to be the goal, and that's probably the best way to go about it. And also, doing open tournaments is a lot of work. So we'll
Do you
see how
think
that
you
goes.
could get a sponsorship from Iran in raising awareness of their currency? Like, it sounds like a pretty good investment for them.
I am half Iranian, so I might have some hookups there, Sindarin. They might not be too big of fans of Americans, though, so you might have to do a lot of the legwork, if I'm being honest. In terms of the government, that is. People love Americans. Anyway, for people that maybe are looking into potentially trying out the new Artifact Foundry, I revived temporarily the Artifact Cinema channel, and I made 2 videos, one of which is a very basic tutorial kind of thing where if you've literally never played Artifact, you should watch it to see if you'd like playing it or watching it. And then the other video is for people that only played Artifact 1, tells you about the differences between 1 and 2. I'll put those links in the description of the YouTube video. So hopefully we'll see you all there. Again, 4.2 million Iranian rials, so about $100. It's Sunday, March 21st, 9 a.m. PST, 17 CET. The Artifact International, Sindarin. I'm doing it. Valve's not doing the International Artifact. I am. Okay?
The thing is, if you just do 10,000 of that tournament in a row, then you've made the TI, actually. So
it's true.
Just 30 years straight with that tournament every day, and we're there.
We can do it, guys. We can do it.
If we do it, like, then Valve would have been like, it was good we didn't do it because the community did it themselves. So there you go.
Yeah, Valve will actually be happy about that. That's true.
Who's going to host the next tournament on the 22nd?
I can do it. I'll do it every day. How about that?
How many Riyadh is that?
Riyadh.
10,000 times 4 point... What did you say?
You said Riyadh. That's the capital of Saudi Arabia. It's Riyadh.
What was it called?
Riyadh.
Riyal. Sorry, Riyal.
Yes.
Riyal. You said 4.2 million times 10K?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that sounds like a state budget.
We can do it. Okay. So let's get started with the actual episode. So this is the drama of the week, I guess you could say. The DPC teams, or some of them, I should say, have signed a joint statement. I'll let you read this since I have some stuff to say as well. The Join Dota article, if you don't mind, good sir.
Just the one quote, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. The planning and preparation for the Singapore Major has been an ongoing process for several months, supported directly by the Singaporean government. We're confident that every step is being taken to ensure the health and safety of everyone involved, and are looking forward to putting in a great show for the fans, and excited to see the return of LAN events. Signed, Alliance, EG, Fnatic, Navi, Neon, OG, Team Liquid, Nigma, Team Secret, and Virtus.pro. Note, OG did not make it to the major, but wanted to show their support nonetheless.
Right.
So it's OG and 9 qualified teams? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
8.
6, 7, 8, 9.
Is it
9? OG and 9.
Okay. So I don't even know where to begin with this. This is such a weird topic. So first and foremost, for me personally, I mean, it's not like I got a bunch of tweets about this. It was just mostly Reddit. So I just wanted to kind of clear the air because you and I talked about this because we got some messages from some people that weren't too happy, right? And I got a lot of pushback specifically. So I would say the TLDR, before I get into detail here, don't shoot the messenger. So for the most part, I'm just repeating what several other people told me, their feelings. And it's not like it was one or two people. It was several people, all from different teams, okay? Now, this joint statement, I mean, if you think about it, the joint statement kind of backs up exactly that because it's not all the teams. And OG's on there for some random reason. And apparently the joint statement wasn't even sent to every team, which is also kind of weird. But I think people kind of got I don't know if you got messages as well, because it was me that said all this stuff on the last podcast. But there was like this notion that I didn't want the major to happen. Now, I'm going to ask you, because we haven't talked about it. Did you get that feeling as well?
No.
I'm trying to understand where that came from.
No.
Okay, so
I got the feeling that the teams that said they don't want the major to happen did not want it to happen, not you.
Right. So,
right? I don't know.
I mean,
or at least not in the, what to say, at least not in the presented version or whatever. That
right. I mean, it's hard for me to look at other people's perspective. I'm not saying I'm right all the time, but I felt like I made it kind of clear that I'm repeating what sources said. But I mean, in terms of the notion that I'm not wanting the major to happen, that's completely untrue. I feel like people are kind of jumping to conclusions. The major, I think, I speak for a lot of people. It's extremely important for Dota. If it doesn't happen, then I mean, it's not saying that TA won't happen necessarily, but it puts it at risk at the very least. And even as is, with that statement coming out from those teams, or from me technically on behalf of some of those teams, I don't think there was enough traction for it to derail anything anyway. I feel like this was kind of a formality in a lot of ways. But having said that, I still am a little bit concerned with the 2-day warranty, the 2-day quarantine. And I think that's okay. I think it's possible for somebody to want the major to happen, but still be very concerned with this 48-hour period, which seems really weird. And the fact that, other teams are kind of being overlooked in terms of like practice time, travel time, things of that nature. I think that's fine to be critical.
Should always be allowed to be critical of stuff, even stuff you like. Like, if we can't do that, like, think about it. One of the things we do the most on this podcast is criticize Valve, but that's because we love the game so much that we want them to be good, right? So if we feel like they're not putting it up to the level that they are capable of, we want to give our criticism and our suggestions. So it will be the same with everything, including the majors. Like, if there's something that is concerning, that doesn't necessarily mean we have the solution, but we can at least point out if there's something that, is that we have an opinion on. So
right.
It should be everyone's right to be critical like that.
I could have read it the wrong way. No pun intended with Reddit, I guess. But I feel like you are kind of exempt in this conversation a bit, because nobody's really, I mean, I wouldn't say no people are going after me necessarily, but I have had this history. I feel like it's me specifically, because I've had a history of kind of speaking up about things when I feel it's morally justified, that end up hurting my career. Like, I make some stupid decisions, being honest, but I feel like there's some integrity in that, right? Like, just off the top of my head, examples are, I'm not going to go into detail on any of these. The noob from UA thing, do you remember that? Where I criticized him for like taking videos? Everybody just shredded me. And then literally a month later, the exact same thing happened to Zai, and it was completely in Zai's favor. I love Zai as well. He's a cuddly boy. I understand. Maybe I'm just prickly or something in my old age. But then there was the
shave.
That's true. I've had a beard the whole time. That is true. I started Dota with a beard. So
Same.
I think I might look scarier if I'm being. I scared the shit out of my girlfriend when I shaved my beard one day. So maybe not the best. But other things that I've talked about, and on the podcast before, there was this big, I don't know if call it drama, but remember the TI workshop stuff with the talent getting chess in? Yeah. You, me, and LD were very critical of Valve during that time. Like, we talked to them all the time. I feel like that, could be wrong, feel like that hurt my career personally, because I'm less untouchable than the Cinderins and LDs of the world. And then there's a few other things that I guess I shouldn't really bring up that's happened amongst like the talent that I've spoken up about, that pretty much all of them should know about at this stage, but probably not best to bring it up. So the point is, I have a track record of doing this. And now this is a great example, because me doing this, me just reporting something that's being sourced to me, I probably won't even get invited to another PGL event. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised about that. But I mean, that's okay. if that's the way it's going to be, then that's kind of the way it's going to be. But I think at the end of the day, like it's all about being self-critical and just understanding. Like I think that's the thing I'm best at. I'm very self-deprecating, but at the same time, I think I'm good at looking at. Not to make this about me, by the way. I feel like this is very maybe too on the nose, but I'm kind of this guy that's very transparent about pretty much everything. And like you brought up, I think me specifically, can you think of any talent that's active in the scene that is more critical of Valve than me? Can you literally? I'm like literally anybody.
I don't think so.
So, and then there's this whole side thing going on where apparently I'm a shill as well for Valve, and I'm just like,
I mean, that's
it's
the best.
fucking
The best
comical.
thing, the best thing is, I always find this so funny. Like when you read comments on wherever it is, but especially on Reddit, where people think that, like, it's a lot of the time that it's one entity that's writing a comment, right? So it's like, but last time this guy did this, you guys thought this, and now you think this, and it's like, well, maybe it's just different people, and when it's their opinion that's being voiced, they're more likely to write a comment, like.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah, it's true.
It's not rocket science that there's a lot of people on this site. Not everybody reads everything. Not everybody interacts with all the content, and the opinion of the day, in quotation marks or whatever you want to call it, can change just based on which people give it the most traction. So it's always going to be the vocal majority of the site, or whatever you want to call it, on that specific issue that gets the most traction.
Yeah.
So it's very like, depending on what you're saying and when, even when it gets posted, makes a really big difference, right? Like which region is awake.
Well, it's funny because if I this
So
is just a random example. If one person posts something, like forget about time of day and who you're reaching, right? One person says something, another person says the exact same thing, but that person is for whatever reason just looked like they're given the benefit of the doubt for some reason. It can be a completely different opinion, even if it's the same people having those opinions, right?
yeah.
So it's just interesting that there's a segment of people that just assume I'm trying to fuck people over. I'm like, what? Like it's literally I am the complete opposite. Anyway, I don't want to keep talking about me. I feel like I'm going off.
No, but
tangent
I
here.
do think that's a really important thing to like make very clear here, is that we don't really have anything to gain by things failing, right? Like
Right.
we want things to succeed. We're not doing this for like personal gain. We're not like criticizing stuff because haha, now we feel good about ourselves and this is gonna grow our podcast or whatever. Like it's not. That's not the point. The point is to voice opinions and make it. This is what should be discussed because it's the important news of the game, and because we care about the game, that is what we're going to be talking about. So, like, we want the game to succeed as much as possible. So, yeah, we're neither shills nor haters. We're just trying to give our subjective opinions on topics and try to, start a discussion and hopefully get things better.
Yeah.
That's
So
pretty much it. That's what the show's about, right?
so for this topic in particular, I mean I'm fairly confident the major will occur. Hopefully, there's no issues with like the safety protocol stuff that's happening. And again, I feel like some teams are definitely being overlooked a bit. Which so here's the thing: I've run a lot. You and I even have run a bunch of third-party tournaments before. There is this kind of what's the best way to to put this? You can be taken hostage. I'm not saying this is happening in this particular tournament, but you can be taken hostage by some of the top teams that they can just demand everything, and you kind of have to just cater to everything they do because they bring the viewers, right? And there's definitely that element for third-party tournaments, but for like a major, I feel like that isn't shouldn't at least be a thing at all. You should get a consensus. You should get a majority, whatever the case. So again, there's a lot of stuff that I don't even know behind the scenes, but this is just stuff I'm being told. So hopefully it works out, and the major is hopefully a success because
And the major is soon as well, right? Let's not forget
couple
that. It's
weeks,
actually
right?
coming
Week
up
and a
really
half.
soon.
Yeah,
It's like in a week and a half that it starts. Let me find the exact start date of the group stage. The groups start March 27th.
2 days after the anime is released,
Yep.
which I will watch on day one, and you will probably watch the next year. You'll probably watch
So
one episode.
I'm
a
going to
month.
watch it day one, but here's the thing. So people are
Okay.
going to watch the anime and they're going to be like, wow, this is a great anime. I wonder what the game is like. And then the major comes out and they're like, fuck, it's nothing like the anime.
That's true.
Good or
The art
bad?
style,
Good or bad?
we didn't really talk about this, but the art style is like totally different with what like
It's
if you're
pretty
seeing it
different.
for the first time and then you go to League of Legends, that kind of makes sense, that transition, but not really Dota, right? I wonder if that's going to turn anybody off. Anyway, next topic,
I think it's
Cinderman.
going to be great no matter what. I'm hyped.
Me too. How big of a letdown would that be if it just sucks ass? I would be so crushed. Oh, looking so
I
much
think
forward to that.
I'll just say going in, like my expectations of this is not that I will be completely blown away and it will be the best thing ever, but I think based on the people that they have for it, like they've definitely made sure to hire a studio and hire voice actors that are kept in very high regard, right? So it's not like you've just taken the cheapest solution and whatever, let's just have something. This looks like it's set up to be quality, right?
Right.
So
And I'm
at
not
the very
gonna
least, the
lie.
investment part seems to be.
I feel like I maybe hyped myself up a little too much because I just finished watching, like just yesterday, the night before, I finally finished Legend of Korra, which is the same studio.
Mhm.
Unbelievable. It's really fucking good. Both that and even though it's a different studio, The Last Airbender, they're connected. Both
Mhm.
extremely good. So that's probably too high. I'm gonna put it down a peg, and that's what I'm kind of expecting. Hopefully, I'm, surprised. But next thing on the list, Cinderin, Overwatch, Dota Overwatch, that is. We would never talk about that other garbage game. Has been updated a couple times.
Yeah.
One very specific change that was made, obviously, because Icefrog and company watches us. You can now report people for matchmaking abuse, for smurfing, Cinderin. Isn't that amazing?
Is this for smurfing though? Are we reading this the same way?
What else would it mean? Matchmaking
So the
abuse.
category is called manipulating matchmaking, boosting, or similar behavior.
Yes.
So in my interpretation, these two things are not the same. So matchmaking manipulation is where you have, for example, a player in the other team. You queue at the same time, you have a player on each side, and one player just feeds down mid to boost the MMR of the other guy, right? Like you're just manipulating the system. That's
Okay.
matchmaking abuse. Boosting is that you are playing somebody else's account and this is where it's like impossible, right? It's impossible to distinguish between a boost and a smurf as a player within the game, right? You don't know who owns the account. So if you see someone smurfing, you could probably report for this, but if it turns out the guy is smurfing, that is not technically an abuse in this category because it's not boosting. Boosting is playing someone else's account for them.
So
And
I
then
look at
or
this.
similar behavior is like, what does that category even mean? That could mean
Similar
literally
behavior is kind of the catch-all. That's the way I look at it. So yeah, you're
right.
technically right on these other two, but I think it's all smurf. I don't know why. Again, I don't know if
And I don't
smurfing is
know
even an
how it's going to
official
be
word.
used. That's the thing here, right? My
True.
feeling with this, my hope is that all this data gets gathered of people reporting for all of these subsets or whatever, and that there still is this whole plan of somewhat automating it with detection. And now that they're letting people report it, they can start building a huge database of what people consider to be smurfing or boosting or whatever in their games and them knowing what actually is, right? Because they can hold those two up against each other. There will be shitloads of fake reports on this, let me tell you. Oh my god, if you had to filter through this,
What are the
amount of people that will
chances?
report someone for smurfing and it's just somebody
Of
having a
course.
good game and he's 10-0, right? It's like, but a lot of them will be true. So
What are the chances this is a placebo?
there's definitely a chance of that.
That's what I don't know if that's actually gonna
Definitely a possibility.
if that's actually the case, but part of me feels like it could be.
It could be a placebo.
But even if you talk about like boosting, technically, like a lot of the games that I have that are clearly Smurfs, it's not them alone. They're with somebody. So in theory, they could be boosting that guy, right? That's another definition of boosting, in my opinion. You're boosting their MMR.
Yeah,
by
maybe the
playing.
wording needs to be clarified a little bit there. That's not
No.
what I would consider boosting.
It
But
says similar behavior. What else would that mean? That's just smurfing in general.
well, it's like saying if you're party queuing with someone and you're better than them, is that boosting? Because then you can't party queue with anyone anymore. Even if they're 100 MMR lower than you, then you're
well, no,
quote
they're
unquote
playing.
boosting them.
They're playing on a Smurf account in order to boost their friends.
Right.
That's different than playing like that's different
On
than
your
you
main
and me
account.
playing on our mains or
Yes.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, you could consider that's also matchmaking manipulation. Kind of, it's such a gray zone, right? That's the problem. It's such a fucking
Well, I don't think that's the problem. I think that's the good part. Hopefully they shut down all that garbage. Of course, I don't know how they're actually implementing it, and we probably won't know for the foreseeable future. Okay, next topic. OD, Sheever, and Slacks have appeared in a Netflix YouTube video, and a new one came out today that was just Slacks, essentially him talking about things related to the anime, more background about some of the locations that we might see, some of the hero storylines, like the story arcs, if you will. Slacks mentioned Caden, which is one of the heroes that I've been looking for to potentially coming out as being apparently the best Dragonite, which is kind of what we alluded to before. It's not Davian. Davian. I feel like
Davion.
I want to say Davian, but I know they say Davian, and it bothers me.
Yeah, I always thought it was Davian too, like Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Imagine you
Sup,
become
brah?
your name is Dave. You're like, hey, my name's Dave, and then you become a Dragon Slayer, and like it just doesn't sound good if you're called Dave, man. You gotta have something cooler. I was like, okay, I'll be called Davion then. And then it's okay.
So, did you watch any of
He'll
these?
always be Dave to me.
What'd you think
I was
of
there.
these videos?
Huh? What do I think about the videos?
What did you think of this topic that we're currently discussing on this podcast right now?
Oh, this topic. Well, I've only watched the first video.
Of course.
Which
very prepared as always.
What do you mean, of course? You thought I watched none of them. You should be positively surprised.
You know, we get hate comments all the time about how we're not prepared for any of our topics.
Do we?
We do. It's probably the same two people, but
yeah.
Well, you're disappointing them again, Cinderin.
Yeah.
What do you have to say?
Sorry to disappoint,
Speak
guys.
to them.
I didn't watch it in my sleep.
Speak to them.
My bad. So, yeah, I mean, I really loved the first one. That's what I can say. And I'm, without having watched it, let's just preface this. I'm assuming the second video is more in the same vein, right? It's Slacks going into the lore, giving more background for people to have more of a connection with the series when they start watching. If they've never played Dota before, or if they have played Dota but just don't know anything about the lore.
Yep. Pretty much.
And I'm assuming here that the production level and the style is similar to the first one. And if that's the case, if it's not the case, you can go ahead and stop me. But if it is the case, the first one was great. So I think it did a really good job at just presenting the world in a way that is exciting to somebody who knows nothing about it. Yeah. And even if you do know Dota, I think you learned a thing or two or three. And then there's familiar faces that are basically, presenters of the game in that sense, or of the anime that so you can recognize, and that's also a good draw. So yeah, I think it's awesome. I wasn't really expecting, I don't know why I wasn't expecting this, but I just thought, all right, the anime's announced, they're going to send out teaser, trailer, and then the final trailer, whatever it is, and then the show itself, and that will be it. But that there's content generated around it on the Netflix YouTube is cool. It's not something I really thought about.
I wonder if
it's kind of a tutorial to the show, right?
Yes, this is why I'm thinking this is 100% Netflix wanting it and not Valve. Because Valve would never want to ramp it up, right? They're just like, just release it, whatever. But yeah, it's good stuff. Recommend you guys watching if you haven't already. Just like you said, just setting the pace for what hopefully is a very cool Dota series. And of course, there was word that they haven't been greenlit as of yet for seasons 2 and 3, which apparently are already written, at least in script form, or at least they have a very good idea of what they want to do with the story. It's all dependent on the viewership, essentially. So,
and the number of episodes that are locked are 8, right? That's season 1.
I believe so. And I think again, I could be wrong on this, but every Netflix series, it comes out immediately, all the episodes. So I would expect it to be the same.
They should all be there together, I think.
So yeah, I'm not really worried about them hitting their number. I think just even based on the YouTube views that they're getting compared to some of the other videos that they posted on that specific Netflix anime channel or whatever it is, people are excited. So
if there's one thing Dota fans are good at, it's consuming Dota and nothing else.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
If there's Dota stuff coming out, people will do whatever they can to do Dota, and then they'll be like, "Oh, there's this really cool show about another game." They're like, fuck it, it's not Dota, so I'm not watching, So I do think this is a really good opportunity for the community to really rally behind something special and support it. And I'm not saying people should watch it out of support, but I think a lot of people are just genuinely interested to watch it. And I think the viewer numbers are going to be very satisfying for something like this, right?
Yeah. Agreed.
It'll be good.
Okay, next topic. So some South American players, Panda Poo and Arites.
I'm not completely sure how to pronounce the
Not
second
sure
one.
how to pronounce them.
I'm pretty sure how to pronounce panda poo, though. I say it all the time.
Apparently, they have displayed a bunch of racism towards in a pub versus Jubei, who's a North American player. And I didn't see both of them. One of them was the N word. So that obviously, again, we've talked about this before the podcast, but in America, I can't speak for any other region. This is like beyond the worst word. Not even, I don't want to compare it to anything else, but I will and say it's just the worst word you can say. Um, so that came to light, I guess, on Reddit or something like that. And then Gods
Yeah.
himself tweeted this: to all the pro players thinking you can get away with racism in your pubs as long as you behave in professional Dota matches, we see you and we want nothing to do with any of you in our tournaments. I also hope Dota Pit looks into these recent incidents and addresses them as well. There's no place in Dota scene for the racism we've seen recently from several South American players competing in the DPC. This is not to single out South American players or the region. The same applies to players across all regions and the tournament organizers working with those players. Thoughts, young man?
So I think something that's really important, first of all, is the fact that he doesn't want to single out SA, right? Because I think it would be a bit hypocritical to pretend that there has been nothing the other way, right? I think what has happened in Dota in the last, I want to say, half year to a year is that we're putting more, we're holding pro players to a higher standard in pubs with. That's not to say they don't flame. Like, there are lots of pro players that flame, but it's kind of. I was saying this before we started the podcast when we were talking about this topic. It's like, I don't want to rank what you can and can't say, right? I'm not going to be like the gatekeeper of, okay, this word is too bad and this one isn't. But I think it's a pretty safe thing to assume that people don't want racism as one of the things in pubs. Whereas if you're angry at someone, if you need to let out some steam, if you're having a shit day or somebody's just being an asshole to you, calling someone a moron will probably not get you the same backlash as calling someone the N-word, right? So like, you can at least exercise some sort of self-control. The ultimate version, the Zen version, is to never say a flame word ever. But I also think that's probably not a standard we should expect to hold people to. Maybe that's an unpopular take, and people will be like, hey man, they're pros, they should be able to take everything on the cheek. It's still people. And if somebody keeps poking you over and over and over with their finger, at some point you're going to slap them away, right? So, and that's one of the problems that pro players obviously face, especially some of the ones that are considered, like, let's say, someone like Envy, right? Who is very known and very polarizing as a character. If he's having a bad game, people will be rallying to bully him, right? Which is just shit too. All right, that was a bit of a sidetrack. Now, the thing with Jubei, I don't know very much about Jubei. I've met him once in my life. I'm not going to be a judge of character or whatever. But I think something people are pointing out is that he's not exactly being a saint either on his stream or in his games. He's also flaming. But then again, it's the discussion of, did he have it coming? I don't really think you have the N-word coming. I think you might have the moron coming. Okay, that's kind of the case I'm trying to make here.
Moron.
And then people are saying that, but it's also been the other way. There's been South American players that pro-American players have called racial insults that just don't blow up as much because Reddit is largely American, and a lot of the other cultures or a lot of the other readers, mainly Europe, will be more familiar with the American culture than the North American than the South American culture. So we can relate more to the gravity of the N-word than we can relate to South American insults. So that's why when something like gets posted, it might not get the amount of attention it deserves if American pro players talk shit like that in pubs. So what to make of this? It's obviously inherently unfair that the communication medium that we use is largely NA favored in that sense because of the user base, and that's kind of what we have. But we don't want any racism either way. And some of the things that have happened in the past, like I think a lot of people remember the mind control incident, where he was like, it was a pretty radical statement he made in a pub, and he had to make an apology post from his org, and yeah, that was some pretty serious shit. I think the pro players are starting to understand the gravity of the situation, and that we've kind of set a precedent here. And I think with God stepping up and saying this as well, it's kind of like, okay, tournament organizers are also catching on to the fact that we need to combat this directly, right?
Right.
But what I don't want to see is if the racism goes the other way and we just swipe it under the rug. Then that's fucking hypocritical, and I would hate that. So now that
That's true.
now that it's kind of in place, it's kind of like the 322 incident, right? I know I'm going on a bit of a rant here. I'm
By all
sure people
means.
love me talking on rants. So that was kind of what set the precedent for what match fixing is, and that we never want that again. And people are like, well, why wasn't solo banned for life? Because the precedent wasn't set yet. So the rules weren't in place. After that happened, the rules were in place, and now everybody knew what the punishment was. I feel like with racism in pubs, it's kind of getting there as well, where the people that said really despicable stuff in the past hopefully learned their lesson, and now the precedent is set that now you start getting tournament bans if you behave like this.
Oh, for sure.
So now moving forward, that's what people are criticizing. Like, well, why wasn't anything done about player A, B, and C 1 or 2 years ago? Well, that's because the perspective of the community was different back then, and now we're progressing, so to speak.
Right.
So,
I mean, Dota is a very toxic game, and obviously people can sometimes go overboard. But I mean, I feel like it's just not difficult to not be racist. I, I can't.
you would think so, right? You
Like,
would think so.
I always try to look at other people's perspective, right? Like sometimes words are okay in certain cultures, but if you're a
Mhm.
pro player, like you should know better. I mean, this is actually an interesting. I completely forgot to mention this, but there's an NBA player in the last week named Myers Leonard for the Miami Heat. I think he's a bench player. He was playing Call of Duty. So stupid. Playing Call of Duty on Twitch, and he used a very derogatory word for Jewish people. And like after he said it, you could tell he was like, "Oh shit, should I have said that?" Actually, it was even more. There's a clip about it where he's about to rage and he stops, he thinks, and then he says it. And it's like, what the fuck? What words did you filter out in order to get to that one?
Oh
And
my god.
then on stream, like 20 minutes later, he picks up his phone and he mutes his mic, and you can tell, obviously, it's agent because it's all over Twitter now. And he gets back on his mic and sorry guys, my wife called, I gotta go. And he logs off. Suspended from the league, suspended from the team, fined. I don't know how much they can actually do, but the ironic thing about it is like a lot of the owners in basketball, including his own team in the Miami Heat, is Jewish. So I assume they're trying to get out of this contract. I don't know how good he is, though. I barely ever heard of him.
Jesus Christ.
It's not just Dota. Let's be clear about that. But a certain line does need to be set, right?
I have to say, it is really funny that you stop and do a double take and think to yourself and then say it. That whole concept is just fucking hilarious to me. Not the fact that he said what he did, but
it was
holy
bad.
shit, not stopping yourself there. Like,
He
usually
probably
when people
filtered out
burst
the
shit
N
out,
word
it's
and
because
just
they're
kept going down the
furious.
list.
They're just like, you know. But
Right.
you're literally sitting there. Should I say this racist thing?
I mean, Call of Duty does have a
Yes.
history of kind of, it's not just racism, but like extreme toxicity, very aggressive toxicity, right? More so than Dota even. But it apparently extends to NBA players.
Oh
But
my god.
okay. Next thing on the list, won't be talking about this for too much because it's just an update, but the new tutorial that Slacks and I and all the modders are creating is going it's way ahead of schedule. I'm really surprised.
Nice.
It's actually playable. You guys can go play it now. It's a little buggy. Not all the lines are in. Cinderin might make an appearance audio-wise among a bunch of other personalities. And yeah, it's coming along nicely. My experience with like not the workshop, but arcade games, custom games, is things take forever. But this has been quite smooth. I'm really impressed with the team that Slack's put together. So
I
we'll
guess
probably
you
like
could
do a
say-
playthrough in the coming days again once it's more polished.
I do think one of the things that's really different about this map versus other stuff that gets made in the arcade is that this is funded, right? Like most arcade stuff is, or at least a lot of arcade stuff, correct me if I'm wrong here, is more like people just making it because they think they think the game is cool and this is something they're working on as a passion project. There might be money involved, but it's largely dependent on success. Whereas here, there's like a guaranteed upfront payment, right? Because like,
Right.
this has been funded by X dollars right now. I don't remember what it was. If it was 25K that the community.
28,455 as of this recording.
So obviously, as a modder or someone working on this, there's a lot of incentive to work efficiently and do a good job because you're getting paid, right? On other projects, they might be like second priority because I also got to get bread on the table. And a lot of custom game projects just don't pay as well as this one does, correct? It's like,
Oh, of course not. Yeah.
yeah.
Unless you have like a
So
Chinese
definitely.
investor
And
or
that's
something.
awesome. That's what the community paid for. That it really makes a difference. It's going to be a better product and it's going to be faster. So
Yep. So we'll
good
talk
stuff.
about that again in the coming weeks coming weeks. It's going to be coming out before the 25th. I can tell you that, at least a day or two.
Mhm.
So probably next week we'll talk about the more final version, I guess.
Yep.
Okay,
Cool.
next topic. This is just a complete rumor. I don't know if it's true, but there's a rumor going around that Icefrog is working on a new game, Cinderin. If this is true, well, first of all, do you think this is possibly true?
Well, of course it's possible. I have
That's such a
is there
shitty
any
answer,
background on
honestly.
this rumor?
That's such a
No, but
shitty answer. Do you think
No,
this is
but-
true?
Okay, can I get a little bit of background here?
Possibly.
Can we get some background here? Like,
What background? What do you need?
where does this rumor come from? Like, what's the?
It's the Valve News Network guy, I believe, which
Okay,
he's like a huge hit or a miss. A lot of misses, though, from what I've told.
right. Yeah, well, it gives clicks, I guess. Put Icefrog in there, you're definitely gonna get some traction.
All right, we're just gonna go with this storyline because
Okay.
it is interesting to talk
Okay.
about, I think. Right?
Do I think Icefrog is working on another game? No, I don't. But I have no reason to say that, except that I think Dota is a lot of work already for Icefrog. But who knows, right? But if it's another type of game, then it might be a spiritual successor of the game. So something that uses similar systems, maybe another game within the same genre, maybe a type of port onto VR that they're exploring. Perhaps
Right,
something like that.
potentially. That's right. Yeah.
Valve would probably, if Valve are looking to make new titles right now, based on the success of Half-Life Alyx and how much they've invested into that technology, I would think that their next release would also be in VR. That would be my guess. So if there's a new game that Icefrog is working on, that would be my best guess.
VR, interesting. I didn't really think about that, but would make sense with if they continue to push games onto the Valve Index, which I haven't played in 6 months at least, by the way. I'm not happy with that purchase anymore. If I could retract my review that I originally did, I would. Hold on, let me put Monkey away here. Excuse me.
What is your gripe with that system? Is it the games being too bad, or the system itself just not being enjoyable?
Both. I get nauseous playing some of those games.
But you didn't originally, or?
No, some games you get super nauseous. Beat Saber was very good. That's the killer app, as it were. But
Yeah, Beat Saber looks
it just became like a pain in the ass because to make it good, you have to put your own music, right? Which you have to download a bunch of shit to make it work because it's not technically legal, or I don't even know how it works. And then any update just breaks and you have to redo it again. So it's just like this pain in the ass to constantly update it.
Okay.
So aside from that, that's the only game I actually liked, if I'm being honest. I played a little bit of Half-Life Alyx. We talked about it, and I got pretty sick. So maybe something's wrong with me. But anyway, yeah,
Well, a
that's
lot of people experienced
quite
that, right?
possible. Yeah, it's not mega uncommon, but yeah. So to answer my own question, do I think it's true? I actually do think it's true, but I think he's still working on Dota. Like, I don't think he's ever gonna abandon Dota, right? But just imagine being Icefrog. Like, of course, I know nothing about him, but you're working on the same game and you've reinvented it a lot, right? Let's not kid ourselves. He's added a lot of stuff. There's got to be a certain point where you just want to work on something different, don't you think? Like, how many years? It's been almost 20 years on Dota.
Well, there are people that work the same job their whole life in the same department and live in
Yeah.
the same house.
But a lot of
It's
I'm not going to lump everybody in the same section.
but
as a
those
blanketing
people aren't
statement.
Icefrog.
This is like this job is more of like a creative thing where you have agency over
Right.
everything you do. It's basically ideas popping in your head. It's like if you were an artist, you just draw the same thing and then you just like, let me redo that actually. Just draw the same thing though, over and over, right? Terrible example, but you get the gist. I think
Yeah.
it might be true because the reason I think it might be true is because I want to talk about the possibilities. What kind of a
Right.
game would it be? Would it be Dota related? Is this the reason Artifact got canceled because now they have devs working on other games? I don't know. So if it were a new game, what type of game do you think it would be? Or how
Did
about
the
what
Valve
type of
News
game?
Network guy have any juice on this whatsoever? So just, hey guys, I'm
Cinderin,
gonna start spreading a rumor that Icefrog makes a new game.
Cinder, I didn't
Like,
watch the video. Okay, I'm gonna be real
okay,
with you. I just read a headline. I'm like, oh, that would be an interesting topic to talk about on the podcast,
guys, make
which we're
sure you
doing.
write in the comments that we're not prepared.
It's not. All right, no comment. I'm not going to go down this road. I'm not going to be petty today. But okay, I'll go first. What type of game do I hope it ends up being? I hope it's Dota related, because I think there's, again, we're not going to go back to Artifact here, but I think there's a lot of things that Valve hopefully have learned about what they've done wrong with Underlords and Artifact. And
Yep.
the universe is so deep. I feel like you can do pretty much any type of game, and it would be interesting at the very least. The
I
real
kinda
the crux of the issue
crux.
is, I was thinking of Horcrux for some reason. The real crux of the
The
issue
real
here
Horcrux here.
is the whole idea that a lot of Dota players aren't really rooting for, which I think some people disagree with. Actually, I saw a headline about this, that my comments, going back to this again, being backseated, comments about Dota players not rooting for other games in the Dota universe, and they're people in the comment section like, but I was rooting for Artifact, it just sucked dick. But I think what you're missing here is, yeah, there's some people that were actually rooting for it, right? The blanketing statements never work, but it's just like saying the Dota community is toxic. Would you disagree? Like, if you go into a game, generally it's pretty toxic.
Yeah,
That
I'm
doesn't
not
mean it's
toxic,
100%
so therefore the
true.
community isn't toxic.
Exactly. Everybody's looking at it in their own eyes, right? Where it's not generally, in this case, it would be generally true, right? So, but anyway, I feel like it might be an RPG. I mean, that would make the most sense.
Dota
Right?
RPG would be so sick.
I mean, I
Holy
wouldn't be
shit.
too into it, but hey, maybe I would like it because it's Dota related. I don't know. It's possible. I did like Fable and Jade Empire, the only two RPGs of all time that I've liked. So it's possible. And I know you'd be very excited. Like, maybe it's a massive project like an MMO. Would you like that even more?
I think either way, an RPG is a really, really big project, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you want to use the Dota universe. I think like that's just the type of game that takes a lot of time, because you need to write in RPGs. Like, let's compare an RPG to Underlords, right? In an RPG, you need to have a much, much bigger map. You need to use a lot more voice. You need to use a lot more textures. You need to use a lot more programming logic, all this stuff. And you need to write a much, much bigger story. So as like just a project, an RPG is like, I don't know how many magnitudes bigger than a game like Underlords that is.
True.
Or Artifact for that matter. Not to downplay Artifact, but it's still like, card games or auto battlers just have a way smaller universe to create. So I think that has to be a lot less effort. So if you're making this RPG as Valve, it's a really, really big investment, and you need to really believe in that. I think the thing that makes me think that an RPG is less likely, once again, is I think if they make a new game right now, it would be for VR. And I think making an RPG in VR is still a bit unrealistic, probably, given the scope. Maybe in 5
Would
years,
you
10
be
years?
excited for a VR game? More VR games? Like, am I the only one that thinks this is genuinely just a novelty type deal where, like, honestly, AR looks more promising to me. Like, that would be like playing a card game using AR where you have like glasses on, you can actually see your table and you see things projected. That is way cooler to me than VR, where you have a screen on your fucking face. Is that just me?
Think this isn't really about. I think Valve have invested so much time and so much money into developing this that I don't think they're just going to release one title and then call it quits. Especially when that title, I don't know, it wasn't Alex relatively successful, at least. It wasn't like a failure like Artifact was. So
I mean, too soon, Sinran.
yeah, sorry.
No,
hey,
it
you said
was,
it yourself.
It was I'm allowed to say that I'm a fat mess. You
Oh.
can't say I'm a fat mess. There's a difference.
Oh. No.
It was well received for sure. I heard nothing but good things, other than people like me that got nauseous. But I think it's already been announced like a long time ago that Valve is working on several more VR games, so that's not going to be a huge surprise. But the question is, would Icefrog be working on any of those, right? So this leads me into my, like, okay, let's just say it's a non-VR game. You're saying, I agree. RPG takes a lot of work. MMO would take like 10 times more work, so it doesn't really seem like something Valve would want to do because you need a lot of employees to upkeep that. So
Yeah.
what other type of game would you want in the Dota universe? You obviously not going to do a card game at this state. You've done an auto battler. What would you want to see?
Look, once again, can you take Dota into VR?
Can you stop it with fucking VR, please?
Well, that's what you're asking me. What I think they're making.
I
That's
said
what I think.
disregard virtual reality because I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's not interesting.
Well, then I don't think they're making the game. What the fuck, man?
Guys, I want to let you know that Cinder and I have been friends for so many. He still sucks so much balls at just talking theoretically about stuff in an interesting manner. He has to look at everything super logically. Why? Why?
You know what's funny about that? When I talk to Susie and I like talking theoretically, she shuts me down. So think about that. I love talking theoretical, but you're asking me my theoretical opinion. I'm like, I don't think.
And I'm giving you rules.
Okay, you're forcing
no VR.
Okay.
Rules.
No VR.
Follow them.
No VR. That's where I think they're making the game. So now I will invent a game that they could be making that I don't think they're making. I think they're making Rocket League with Dota. Shannon.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, let's go on to the second half of the segment.
All right, I'll actually give you an answer. Okay, you deserve it. You've worked really hard to get here.
It's a struggle.
What
he's
could
really
you do with it?
now.
Well, honestly, my best guess would be if it is Dota and it is non-VR, then some sort of RPG, probably not multiplayer. So some sort of single-player, story-driven game where you're playing one of the characters from the Dota lore, and it could, kind of go. If you think about what the anime will probably do, right, following Davion or whatever, you could have a game like that with origin story of a hero, and then that's the RPG. And then there's like the world and interacts with the heroes, experience and stuff like that. That would be my best guess.
So what we've come full circle into, it's going to be an RPG. That's what you've come down to. Even though, okay, I'm done. Yeah. I do have another.
What's your guess?
That's a good question because I thought it would. No, I was going to say RPG. That's why I brought it up initially.
You can't say RPG and you can't say VR.
What other types of games are there? It's going to be an FPS Dota game that's going to compete with Counter. It's going to be the Valorant, but it's Dota characters. And you'll have Tidehunter with a machine gun, and he can gush people. That amplifies the damage, even though that's Slardar. It's not. The lore doesn't.
This is why I don't give you solutions. Or
his ult is a Ravage from Dota. And you can get people off of the spike or the bomb. What would you call it in this case? The mango. They want to plant a mango tree. And if you wait too many seconds, it explodes on you and you lose. I don't see what the problem is here. I actually like this a lot. I'm gonna run down with this. Valve, if you're listening, I should get a percentage of sales on this one, I believe, because this idea is just too unique to pass up. Okay. So I want to finish that part up.
I hope that's the game they're making. Mango Mania. That would be an Icefrog game. Icefrog loves mangoes.
This is true. So I have a general question for you. Again, it's hypothetical, Cinderin, but this is something we haven't really talked about too extensively. Okay. If Icefrog left Dota, let's say he retires, let's say he just works on another game, whatever the fuck. He's not working on Dota anymore. Do you think the game would survive?
Yes. Because Icefrog would give it back to Yule.
That's it?
Yule still works for Valve, right?
I think so, but he wasn't really working on Dota last I checked.
Yeah. But if Icefrog quits, you could give it back to Yule, and then maybe we can get Dota back to a state where it doesn't have all this crazy shit.
So you're actually secretly hoping that Icefrog leaves, so Yule can revert every. It's going to be patched like 5.83. It's going to have a gambler deleting half the heroes in the game.
No, I'm not. But it's no secret that we've talked about in this podcast that for me, some aspects of the game are getting a little bit wild, and I would like things to be toned back a little bit. But I'm not saying I want Icefrog to leave for that to happen. Of course not. But okay, so if the game would survive, right? Like, let's think about it. Let's say the lead developer on the game. Let's say Icefrog's. I don't know what his actual title is with it, but let's say lead developer. If Icefrog leaves, it's a matter of, okay, is anyone taking over who has the same passion for it and the same understanding of the game? Because I think Icefrog's actually pretty good at Dota, and I think that makes a really big difference for the quality of what comes out, right?
Did he tell you? Did he message you, hey, Cinder, and by the way, I'm pretty good at Dota. Just
By
wanna
the
let
way,
you
I'm
know.
8 KMMR. Hey, what do you think about this? I need.
What if he was
Yeah.
horrible at Dota? How hilarious would that be? He just like could barely even move his mouse. He can't even. He has to play our tutorial to actually.
I think Icefrog's pretty good at the game.
Okay, good.
But
Good
anyway,
to know.
if the person taking over is as passionate and is also, I think, at least has a good understanding of the game, you don't need to be like a master, but you need to understand the game on a pretty good fundamental level to make good changes. And the beta testing crew sticks around and helps out. Do I think it could continue to get changes and be run? Yes. Do I think it will be as good changes on average? Unlikely. So the game would survive, but it would probably not go in as good of a direction because I think Icefrog has an exceptional track record as a balancer and game developer on this.
Right.
Which is why he has such a reputation, because it's a really complex game. It's mega hard to balance, but balancing in Dota overall compared to every other game in the genre or lots of other games in general has been really fucking good for how hard it is theoretically to do. So he has done an exceptional job over the years. That once again doesn't mean we can't criticize it if there's stuff we don't like.
That's right. Icefrog,
And
please
I do think
delete
some
Arc
of the
Warden.
things in the
Thank
last
you.
few years are a bit too crazy for me personally, for what I think is best for the game. I support it
listen to
because
him.
I think it's good for casual play. It's fun. The game needs sparks. It needs spice.
It's fun, but I hate it.
But because I hate fun, we've already established that. I'm
That's
a boring
true.
person. I have nothing interesting to say, and yeah, that's it. So just
that's
just
very
just
true.
remove neutral items. Then there you go. Then it's a bit more boring. Yeah.
So I will say, if Icefrog leaves, it's obviously a monumental effort to replace him. Of course, for all we know, he doesn't even do anything. I mean,
I would do it. I could replace it.
Cinderin could not do it. He wants to be in the limelight. I think the fact that he's not in the limelight actually helps a lot. It's like this theoretical figure that may or may not even be real, right? But I think the game would probably go downhill a little bit more dramatically than it has been. And I know this is not the same, but there is you can call it a case study, I don't know, an example of this happening when Icefrog worked for S2 for however long it was. The moment he left on Han, what did I say?
You just said S2. Maybe some of the audience doesn't know what that means.
S2 Games, that's Heroes of Newerth. The moment Icefrog left, the game became garbage. Like, it was super dramatic and super fast. And again, I don't know how much control he even had on the game itself, but just from a pure like hero design aspect, it got dramatically worse. It wasn't even like, it's very noticeable. So I think there is something there, obviously, that we can't compare and contrast like as exact, like it's not the exact same thing, obviously, but because that company was run by somebody who founded a porn company, so he really didn't have any experience. But that's another story entirely. So we hope Icefrog stays with us for a long time. Okay, last topic of discussion: some drama in the Valorant scene, Cinderin. So remember we talked about Sinatraa being this. He was the best Overwatch player. I believe he got like the MVP or whatever in the Owl League, whatever the hell they call it, which is like a Harry Potter thing. Anyway, he got the MVP in like the finals or whatever, and he immediately retired, left Overwatch, and started playing Valorant. So he joined Sentinels, and they've been a very good team. And then this last week, there was, I mean, I'm going to say it was a claim, but like the evidence was overwhelming in terms of his ex-girlfriend saying that he was sexually abusive, aggressive, things like that. And she has like literal hard proof in terms of recordings and whatnot. So, and I'm not saying that I knew this was coming, because obviously you never know these things, but if I'm being honest, if you watch his stream, the guy at the very least is a complete douche nozzle. So not super surprised about that. How often do I call somebody a douche nozzle? The guy's a douche nozzle.
It's pretty new.
Yeah. So anyway, obviously he got ripped apart, and then the Valorant Championship Tour, which is currently going on, have released this statement. We are aware of the current situation regarding Sinatraa and have launched an investigation. Per our existing competitive rules and investigative process, a decision has been made to suspend him throughout the investigation, and therefore he will not be able to compete this weekend. So that's straight from Riot Games. And then I believe the team, actually, I'm not even sure the team suspended him officially, but anyway, they have been playing with a stand-in, which they've had to, I believe, rent from Cloud9. His name is Tens. It's like the polar opposite of Sinatraa. Like, he's probably even better than Sinatraa, like extremely good and super wholesome and cuddly. Like, I like if he ends up being like something bad in the future, I'm going to be personally shocked because he seems super cuddly. Anyway, he's been destroying face, so good to see him back in the scene at the very least. But figured we would at least bring that up since, occasionally there's drama in other scenes and we want to just not make this seem like Dota is the only one with major issues, right?
Yep.
So that's pretty much it.
And
Okay.
I think it's worth highlighting that Riot's decision was really fast and the way they handled this. Do you agree with this decision here? I think that's what is causing a lot of the discussion among the fans of the game is this what you should do here? Because some people are making the point that this is an accusation. There's no like you said, there's what you would consider hard proof, but there's no like ultimate decision made, right? Some people had the perspective that he should be allowed to play until there's an ultimate decision, and if that's a ban, then that's a ban, right? But they're like, you can't just take this player out based on accusations. What do you think on that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure how I would feel if there wasn't like complete hard evidence or whatever you want to call it that was already presented, because then there's more of a case, I guess. But like, look at it from a team perspective. If I was a team owner, and at the very least, let's just forget about this situation, just create a new one where somebody is accused of something on my team. I would probably sit them as well, just because it's a distraction to the team in general. You're playing in a very important tournament, so just get them out. Even if that particular case ends up being untrue, I think it's still the right move to do that. But Riot, they're very strict about this kind of stuff, or at least they have been lately. They put, I wouldn't say this is necessarily the hammer down, but you have to keep in mind this is the most popular player in the entire game. He has the most fans. Obviously, he goes through multiple titles now in both Overwatch and Valorant, being one of, if not the best player. So this is why it's like huge news. But no, I agree with the assessment overall. I think obviously they're not going into specifics because they want to do their investigation or whatever. But
it's basically
his career might be over.
Yeah, it very well,
at the very least,
might.
Maybe
And
even
if all the
criminal
allegations
charges.
are true, then good riddance, right? Like, there's not
Right.
really much to talk about there. But it's interesting to see this approach of there are some really serious allegations against this player. We're not going to immediately punish him, but we are going to force bench this player while it's investigated. And then, let's take the perspective that it turns out to be untrue. Then how does that make Riot look? Like, they're standing up for the integrity of the scene and for, just being good people. But it also, I can understand the perspective that some people would have that this could, jeopardize players, that people can just come out and make claims against players and then they will be force benched because you're a fan of the other team. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be kind of crazy to go that distance for it, but did that make any sense to you, what I just said?
No,
So
that makes sense.
like, but I still think what Riot did is the right thing, even with that like point of view in mind and that possible like way of abusing the system or whatever you want to call it.
I guess we could relate this to Dota because we had some of this in the past. Obviously, I don't think Valve ever did they make a statement? I can't even remember anymore about any of it. I don't even know if that actually happened. I think it might have been just behind the scenes. So this is kind of could be wrong. I feel like that I would remember that. But anyway, let's get on.
They made a public statement.
Let's get on to the Patreon mailbag. Let's just do the first one since we're a little over time here, Cinderman. This one is from Tede. If you could only eat one type of cuisine for the rest of your life, what would you choose? Twist, what type of cuisine would you choose for each other if you had to pick what you thought was the least palatable to the other person, and
that's
why?
Good.
What? I actually don't know what I would pick for you. So there's a lot of different types of foods that I like. I'll go first. If I had to choose the literal, like right now, it used to be Thai food. Okay, this used to be my number one. Thai curry, masuman, just god tier. But I ate so much of it that I kind of got sick of it, if I'm being honest. Now, if I had to choose like one dish to eat over and over, it would be Vietnamese vermicelli noodles with beef and egg rolls with fish sauce. Legit. But I don't know if I can eat it every day. I get sick of it probably. The one thing that I think I could eat every day, because I did as a kid, is Iranian food, Persian food. It's god tier. I love Iranian food. So that would be my choice for myself, Cinder. And what about you?
I'll be really boring. I think I would take Italian because
Okay.
I absolutely fucking love pasta.
I want to eat pizza every day.
I mean, there is. I don't know which cuisine actually has the biggest like variety of dishes. Like maybe that's something to keep in mind too, for longevity's sake, right? So you don't
That's
get bored.
true. Yeah.
But there's a decent variety in Italian
American
cuisine, right? Like when you
food.
hear that, you just think, oh, it's pizza, it's lasagna, it's pasta. But they also have like different meat dishes and stuff in Italian cuisine as well. So I don't think I would get bored with that. I would pick that.
Okay.
And it's also it's definitely very palatable to me as well. So yeah, that'll be it.
I actually don't know how to answer this. The second part, what I would choose for you.
What would be least palatable to you?
What would you hate? I actually don't have an answer. Legit, I can't think of any food like general that I think you would hate. Because I feel like you like a lot of food. That's like
I like a lot of food.
One calling card. It's the one thing that you're cultured in, right?
I mean, if you were to choose something the least palatable, right, you would just take something insanely spicy. But there's not like one cuisine where everything is insanely spicy, right? Like every cuisine has something you can choose that's less ridiculous.
Is there any type of food that you think I would hate? All right, I'm gonna choose one. It's not a national. It's not like a nationality kind of thing. Vegan food for you, and probably me. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, we both definitely like meat. But yeah, that's not really one. It's not really a cuisine, though, is it? It's like a lifestyle.
It could be considered a cult by some, Syndrin. But yeah,
a cult.
I've actually been enjoying the word cult so much lately because of Arkosh. We're not a cult, by the way. That's like the coolest catchphrase, honestly. Like, yeah, we worship Satan. We're not a cult, by the way. Just throwing it out there. So is there any type of food that you think I would not like? I feel like I've had quite a bit.
I'm trying to think of what you would like the least. You don't have to dislike it, right? It's just the one you would like the least.
Okay. Then, God, I like so many. I'm so fat. Mexican food's amazing. Vietnamese, Thai, American, Italian, Middle Eastern of any kind,
maybe
basically.
British for you?
Oh, that's fucking true. That sounds awful. Oh, I know what it is. It's no offense. No offense ahead of time.
If you say no offense first, it's offensive. That's a life lesson I have made. Okay, if you say no offense, what's about to come now is gonna. Okay, I'm ready.
I've only had how do I put this without offending people? Oh, that's true. I actually forgot about Filipino. I wasn't thinking about that. Nikki's made me some Filipino, and some of it's good, but some of it I really don't like. But like German, maybe. Like what country is like just
pretty? Oh, dude, I actually like a lot of.
What is the country that has like the boring ass bratwurst? That's German, right?
Germany has bratwurst, yeah.
Like a lot of those types of like they have basically no taste to me.
Okay, Shan, let me tell you the German staples. Okay, what is Germany known for in food? It's bread.
Yes.
And it's meat.
Yes, I know. I like both.
Do you think that I would not like that?
Maybe it's a specific style that I don't like because I've gone to some.
There's a lot of really good food in Germany. I lived there. I definitely didn't have a problem with the food.
I have yet to have a donor.
That would not
by the
be
way.
a hit for me.
Need it.
I think there would definitely be something worse than that for me.
Okay.
But again, I also have the perspective. I also have the opinion that like every culture has really, really good food. It's about the way it's made, right? Like if you have bad food in any country, you'll be like, yeah, the food here is bad. But yeah, maybe you've had some lousy German shit. The really good German food is really good. And the really good food everywhere is really good.
Yeah, I agree. There's no country that's going to just have shit food. You'll like something at some point. I mean, maybe if you go to like the outskirts of civilization and they only eat insects, then that's probably the one I won't like.
Yeah.
I think I'll go out and say that.
The least palatable for you would be middle of the desert cuisine.
Scorpions.
Yeah.
Sounds awful.
Probably.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. This was episode 96, powered by Elgato. Thank you again for powering this episode. Until next time,
Elgato
Suns
means
fan
the cat. Sorry.
and
okay.
Cinder. Yeah,
All
if people don't know, that's
Yep.
what it means. Until next time, Suns fan, Cinderin, goodbye. You screwed up
Bye.
my outro. Bye.
Subscribe. See ya.
Subscribe. We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah.